You know, so since I lost on Netflix's Fastest Car, I just had to join them. That means I traded all my cars in for this Acura NSX because I wanted a taste of poverty. All right guys, welcome back to Exotic Car Hacks, and all joking aside, I didn't really lose on Fastest Car, did I really? I left there with millions of dollars in my pocket. I actually left there with over 800 grand more in sales than the day before. Everyone else there left with their shit boxes, none of which were even worth more than my watch at the time. So try to let that sink in. Who won, who lost? I'll let you kind of decide that. However, today we are reviewing my latest long-term acquisition, a Honda. Yes, I called it a Honda NSX. That's what it should have always been, except in America where they called it an Acura NSX. This is a 2005 Acura NSX T, which I'm going to refer to for the rest of this video as a Honda. So this is the final year they made the this generation, which is the second generation of NSXs. This is the Targa, obviously, so you got the roof that comes off. This car was an original one owner car, and you're ready for this, with 10,000 original miles from 2005, full PPF and in mint condition. And it came with very few minor upgrades, which made it even better than stock, which was kind of what attracted me to it. But before anything else, what attracted me the most to this car, and I want to show you because it has this crappy little remote here. We open the door and take a look at this. This is what 18-year-old seat looks like. Look at this, 18 years old. The seat looks brand new. It has no dye on it, no scratches, no marks. It is in immaculate shape, immaculate. No scratches on the DIN panel. It is superb, absolutely superb. And it came with a couple of upgrades, which we're going to talk about. NSXR steering wheel, spoon shift knob, exhaust coilovers, and of course to finish it off, I had to add a little bit of carbon fiber here, and of course these BBS LMs. These are from BBS, so this is an actual original set of BBS LMs in diamond black finish. This is a 1718 setup to keep it original with the best drivability factor, and of course the car has full PPF. So look at how incredible this looks for what, like an 18-year-old car. It is amazing, absolutely amazing. And all of these mods that I added are courtesy of my friends at Euro Boutique, who helped me kind of bring this little bits and pieces to this to really get it to this final stage of what I wanted to create here. So why did I buy this car? Well, a couple of reasons. You guys know that I'm a big fan of early 2000s cars. I believe that this was an incredible era, Lamborghini Diablo, Modena, NSX, Supras. I mean, they were looking even at the 993. I thought some of the best of the designs, experiences, and driving came from that era. I mean, this was, after all, when the real Fast and Furious movie came out. This was an era where people still had a lot of enthusiasm. And while today's cars are mind-boggling faster, and this is incredibly slow to drive, probably slower than a golf cart today, one of the most incredible things that I think came from that era was the feeling of driving that was becoming a very real thing, and cars were having that perfect blend of experience with comfort. And this is a great example of that, right? So I already have the 993, and now here is the NSX-T, and we have the Cobra R, cars that really had a lot of history and really did a lot for their respective brands. And while this isn't the fastest car, I felt this was probably the best example and one of my favorite colors from my childhood at a time where I couldn't afford an NSX. So now that I can, I'm buying back all the cars that I wish I could have always owned, and cars that were always very special to me. Now, you saw me in another video talk about the Cobra R, which you'll see all the way in the corner over there. Spectacular car. I drove it once, will never drive it again. But this car is very special, and this is one of the reasons I decided to review on it. Obviously, the Cobra R is something like, it's just something that should have stayed in the year 2000, but this car has really continued to impress even almost 20 years later. And I want to talk a little bit about that and why. So there's something special about NSXs, and obviously you take the target top, you can put it here, enjoy open air, but something dramatic that has changed over the years for these cars, which I want to point out that is very different in today's cars. Look at how tiny these cars are, and I don't mean the space. Space is very good. The driving with the driver next to you, very intimate, very exciting, very close, but more importantly, the drive is with the car. The car is not overly large because of safety standards, so it's not what it is today with cars being 3 times wider, longer, taller. This is a very connected experience, and this is one of the things that I love about this car, is when I drive it and the top's down, I really feel like I'm on the road. Now, it's not about how glued it is to the road or how lowered it is. It's really about the size of the car. You feel like you're still driving the car and you're not being driven in it. And a lot of these newer cars, while they're exciting and they're still super fast and super planted, they give you a very different feel. Now, originally I would have said, well, this is because of the analog 6-speed driving. But the reality is, even with the 992 Touring, which is one of my favorite 6-speed cars, you don't get that feeling. One other car that came very close to this, which was very exciting, was the Ford GT, which you guys know I have a 2006 Ford GT, also a 6-speed, a fantastic car, also smaller, but a lot of power. And so very uncontrollable and rear-wheel drive. This, on the other hand, is really a perfect fun car to drive and enjoy on the weekend. So, you know, I've decided that we're gonna do a mini series here at Exotic Car Hacks. So make sure you like, subscribe, turn on notifications, and of course, comment below on cars you'd like me to start buying. But since I've gotten basically every exotic car I could possibly want, and I'm still gonna add a few more, we have a lot of great cars coming to the channel. But one thing I wanted to point out is that I'm started to buy a lot of what I consider to be mid-level classics. Now, I know that a lot of you guys watching this are in your 30s and 40s, and so what are classics to you and I are basically very different than what are classics to a lot of older people. Like, they like their very old Mustangs and things that were in their era. Our era is basically these kind of cars. So you've seen me talk about the Diablo, you've seen me talk about the Cobra R, the SL500s, you know, and so now with the NSX, we have yet one more car that we're gonna do a little bit of talking to, because specifically, just like the 993, these cars are still pretty enjoyable to drive. But I want to point out that with older cars, it's a lot harder to decipher which ones are still decent on the road and which ones just need to be left alone and basically be collector cars. Because you'll notice this, like a lot of these older cars, they don't drive that well. You know, like a lot of stuff starts to rot, get bad, rubber goes bad, and the driving experience after you've driven a lot of newer, more exciting exotics becomes so bad that you just want to either like the look of it or you don't. Like, for example, if we look at this Cobra R, I adore the design of the Cobra R. I think it's a beautiful design because of it brings me back to my like 18 years of age when I used to dream about this as it was sitting in a Ford showroom and I couldn't afford it. It was a $60,000 car, right? At a time where 60,000 is the equivalent of having a 150K car today. So an 18-year-old looking at a car like that can't afford it, doesn't have it. So this is where it's at, right? Like, now I enjoy looking at it, but certainly driving it even just up and down the street, it's just terrible. Like, it's a terrible driving experience because it's outdated. On the other hand, yesterday I had a chance to actually literally pick any car here, and I have over like $15 million in cars here. This particular car was the one I chose to drive because of how fun it was, and just because the weather was nice and I could put the top down. Next to it is a V12 Vantage that's worth $500,000. That's brand new with 200 miles, exhaust, suspension, and everything, and is probably one of the nicest convertibles right now on the market. And yet, this is the car I chose to drive because of the fun factor. Not because it was the fastest, not because it was the loudest, not because it was the absolute most amazing car in the world, but because of how it made me feel in these 15 minutes that I had to drive from my office to my house. And so, you know, this has really been probably my favorite older car, not just in design, but also just in experience. I still think the 993 is a little bit of a better looking car, but these cars have now started gaining value too. So if you'd like to learn more, we're gonna do another video dissecting the NSXT, what it takes to buy the right one, how you should buy it. But for now, this is my 2005. It is now part of the long-term collection. And more importantly, guys, if you've considered an NSX, remember these values have already started to move. These cars were in the 99, 100K range. Now they're in the 150, 200K range. And down the road, they'll be even higher. I believe in lower mileage examples like this one will do very well in the next few years. So that is why I've parked my money in one. I've decided to enjoy it for a little bit, and hopefully you'll follow me on the channel for a lot more content in the upcoming days. But in the end, you know, I did buy a Honda, but unfortunately, or should I say fortunately for me, it was a Honda that most Honda owners can't afford. My name is Pejman Gadimi and I teach people how to drive exotics for free. Let's look here at how this Huracan can cost as little as $300 a month.